Hey guys, in thinking of ways to stop the deep state, one of the most important tools at our disposal is local governance. We need to work with our sheriffs and our police chiefs and our local governments to stop the tyranny of the deep state. It can be done. It is being done. It's been done. We got to continue. Stay tuned and I'll tell you more. A few weeks ago, in our series on solutions in behind the deep state, we went through state nullification. Now, state nullification is a really important tool. If you haven't watched that episode, go back and watch it. State governments have not just the right, but the duty to interpose. In fact, some of our founding fathers, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, they used this tool. They called it the rightful remedy to dealing with unconstitutional usurpations of power. But there's a whole nother layer of government that also plays an incredibly important role in protecting our liberties. And that's why the deep state is coming after it so hard. In fact, we did an episode on how the deep state was trying to not just nationalize, but even globalize our police. And so, if we want to preserve our liberties, if we want to preserve our free system of government, we must work through our local governments to preserve local control. And our sheriffs have an incredible amount of power under our system, folks. This has been true going all the way back to England. These traditions go back hundreds of years, where the sheriff really does have a lot of power. And in the United States, our sheriffs, of course, swear an oath to the Constitution, and they work for the county, right? They work for the people in a county. They're elected officials who respond to the needs and the desires of their local community, obviously in accordance with the Constitution. And so we're now faced with a situation, folks, where we have a federal government almost completely in the tank for the deep state that is out of control, that is smashing our liberties. We have, Biden running around signing executive orders purporting to implement new gun control. We've got a Congress that thinks they're going to start banning this type of gun and that type of gun. And, the next step will be a mandatory buyback and all the rest of it. But guess what, folks? If they don't have our local police and if they don't have our sheriffs, their illegal decrees are worthless. They will not be able to enforce them themselves. The military is not going to do it, and they know that well. And so we need to be in communication with our sheriffs, folks. And these efforts have been going on for a long time. They're not new. In fact, back in 2012, 2013, when Obama was making all these weird noises about gun control, he was going to use his pen and his phone, and he was criticizing us bitter clingers for clinging to our guns and our Bibles. We had sheriffs all across this country that joined forces and said, no, you are not disarming anybody in our county. And we had total support from county commissions. One that I wrote about in 2013. All over the country, counties were jumping on board here. One of the ones that I highlighted was the commissioners in Franklin County in Indiana voted unanimously to approve what they called the Second Amendment Preservation Ordinance. What it did was it said the residents, the law abiding citizens of this southeastern Indiana county are exempt from unconstitutional federal gun control, including past, current, and future restrictions. And here's a direct quote from this measure. All federal acts, laws, orders, rules, or regulations regarding firearms are a violation of the Second Amendment. It went on to say, and for those of you who don't remember, the Second Amendment says a well regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Okay, shall not be infringed. Pretty plain English. In fact, our founders viewed the right to keep and bear arms even more than a right. It was actually a duty that able bodied men have military grade weaponry at home, ready at a moment's notice for the defense of their families, their communities, their state, or even the nation if called upon. And so the Second Amendment is critical, guys. And the language doesn't mince words. Shall not be infringed. There's no wiggle room there. It's not like shall be infringed. A little bit is okay. If you can pass some regulations, that's not quite an infringement. No, guys, shall not be infringed. And so what this county did, and many other counties passed this. I just chose this one because it was off the top of my head. It shall be the duty of the sheriff of this county, not the right, the duty of the sheriff of this county to take all measures as may be necessary to prevent the enforcement of any federal acts, laws, orders, rules, or regulations in violation of the Second Amendment of the Constitution. So even if you have an out of control governor and an out of control legislature, it becomes then the duty of your sheriff to stand with citizens. And honestly, that's what they took an oath to, right? They put their hand on the Bible. They said, I swear I'm going to uphold the Constitution of the United States and of this state. And virtually every one of our state constitutions also has these very, very strong protections for our right to keep and bear arms. And guess what? Even if there was no constitution, they still wouldn't have this, right? The right to keep and bear arms is a God-given right. If you go back to Samuel Adams in 1772 with the Committees of Correspondence on the rights of the colonists, he explained there's actually a section in there that you'll find these rights of the colonists as Christians in the New Testament from the great lawgiver, the head of the Christian church, Jesus Christ, as outlined in the New Testament. They say you have a right to life, right to liberty, a right to property, together with the right to defend all of these. And you have the authority to delegate the authority to your sheriff to help you defend. And so if, hypothetically speaking, some crazy pretending imposter in the White House were to say, hey, we need to get rid of guns, or some lunatic Congress acting in total defiance of their oath of office were to say, hey, we need to come take all your guns, the sheriff then would have a duty to step in and say, look, that's not going to happen in this county. If I have to, you want to send in 50 guys here, we'll deputize every man in this county, and we'll put you all in jail. Okay, that's where we need to go with this, guys. Now, hundreds of sheriffs all across the country have already publicly said they will never disarm the citizens of their county. We need that much, much more strenuously and all across America. Now, one of the leading figures in this fight is our good friend, Sheriff Richard Mack. We've interviewed him here many times before. He's been leading this effort. He's been training sheriffs all across the country. He's gone to states where every sheriff in the entire state has come out to his seminars to learn about their powers and their duties as the highest elected law enforcement official in a county. They have the power to and the duty to protect citizens. And we're talking about the Second Amendment, but it's not just the Second Amendment. It's your God-given rights to free speech, your God-given rights to religious liberty, your God-given right to make a living, your God-given right to be secure in your houses, in your papers, in your effects from unreasonable searches and seizures, right? The sheriff is there to protect us. And so you need to get a meeting with your sheriff. If you don't know that your sheriff is on board with the Constitution he swore an oath to uphold, get on the phone, call, get together a group of 10, 15 people, say, dear sheriff, we would like to come and have a meeting with you. We've got all kinds of resources at the New American you can take with you, and you can go talk to them and see where they stand. Will you stand with the citizens of this county and the Constitution you swore an oath to uphold? Will you stand with the people you purport to represent, or will you stand with tyrants who have usurped illegitimate authorities? Now, again, there's a long tradition of this in our history, even going back to before America was founded, right? Our forefathers in England, the English Civil War, when the king started usurping powers that did not belong to him. In fact, he went as far as to try to shut down the Parliament. Oliver Cromwell rose up, and with a Bible in one hand and a sword in the other, they said the king was guilty of treason. They put him on trial. He was found guilty. They chopped his head off. Okay, and I'm not recommending that, but Oliver Cromwell is one of the heroes of Anglo-Saxon history. If you go outside of the British Parliament today, there's only two statues of people. One of them is Oliver Cromwell standing there with a sword in one hand and a Bible in the other. And we need to get back to this understanding, folks. The deep state wants to destroy our local law enforcement. In the state of Connecticut, in recent years, they've actually done away with the office of the sheriff because they know that the sheriff is an incredible bulwark standing in the gap between the American people and their rights and the totalitarians in Washington, D.C., and in some cases in our state capitals. So, guys, this is a battle that must be fought. Clearly, our political leadership in Washington, D.C. is out of control. In many of our states, that's true as well. But the power of the sheriff is huge. So we need to be working with our sheriffs. Now, if you end up with a sheriff that doesn't understand their role, doesn't want to respect their role as the protector of your rights, and that is their primary job, right? You murder somebody, the sheriff is to arrest you and hold you accountable. You steal something, the sheriff is to arrest you and hold you accountable because you violated the rights of an individual. That is the highest job of a sheriff, not to enforce silly regulations and unconstitutional mandates. They have a duty to stand against that. So get on the phone with your sheriff, get a meeting with them, take them some literature. If you haven't yet started using the intelligence briefs that we're putting out through the law enforcement intelligence brief, get some of those and take them to your sheriff. Your sheriff should already have them. They're going out to every sheriff and police chief in this country, but get some copies, take them to them, talk to the lead deputies. And guys, we need to be serious about this. Now, the Supreme Court has upheld this. Sheriff Mack and another sheriff actually sued the federal government, and it went all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court in in Prince versus United States. They said, we're not going to enforce unconstitutional gun control in our county. That's not our job. That's not our responsibility. In fact, it's unconstitutional. We're not going to do it. The Supreme Court said, hey, the sheriff doesn't work for you, federal government. You can't force them to do anything. That's not their job. They work for the people of their county. They swear an oath to the Constitution. They don't work for Biden. They don't work for Congress. They don't work for the Supreme Court. They work for you, folks. And if your sheriff doesn't want to participate in protecting liberty, find yourself a new sheriff. Okay. The overwhelming majority of the counties in the United States are freedom-loving bastions of conservatism and support for the Constitution. And so we need to make use of this very powerful tool, guys. Get in touch with your sheriff. Do it now. We can defeat the deep state, but we need to use all the tools at our disposal. And the office of the sheriff, who represents the citizens of the county, is one of the most important tools in our toolbox. Thanks so much for watching, guys. God bless you all. I'm Alex Newman. This is Behind the Deep State. Please share it out and make sure to stay tuned. Thanks again, and God bless.
If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to subscribe, hit like, hit that little bell so that you'll be notified whenever we post new videos. And also, please make sure to share this video with your friends. Email is a great way to do it. Remember, there are powerful forces working to steal our freedom and destroy our country. We need to work together, expose those behind the deep state. Otherwise, you can kiss your liberties goodbye.